My name is Yvon Davis and I arrived in 1962 from the Netherlands. My family then went back about 2 years later, 2.5 years later, and then we returned to Australia in 1974. And I still have memories of playing near the house because the grass used to be really quite high. And with my hair colouring, I knew as a kid that my mother wouldn't be able to find me if I stayed low in the grass because it was that yellowy sort of colour. In Australia, it's most of the time it's quite clear and it's full of stars, whereas in Europe, where we lived, in the Netherlands, it wasn't, you know, there's no constellations like we have here. And I used to look up and think, that's funny, you know, there's less stars, how can that be? By the time they went back, they sort of thought, what on earth have we done? We should not have made that mistake. We really should have stayed. And I went from being very extroverted to being very quiet and shy because I just simply didn't want to speak. Even though in my case, I went back home and it's supposed to be the country I came from. I simply didn't fit in. And then you come here and you have the same problem all over again. And of course, I spoke English, but Australian. If I was speaking to an Australian at the time, I used to watch their faces because I simply couldn't follow some of it. So if they were smiling, I would smile. If they were frowning, you know, whatever it might have been, I would frown as well because I had no idea what they were talking about. But to try and fit in and start all over with friends and also had my parents not quite settling because everything was different. They were older. My father found it a lot harder to find a job. My brother had to go to school and learn the language. He had to settle in. Settlement issues. I remember the first year that when I worked, every time I had a job, most of the money would go to my parents because they needed it financially to try and settle back in. When we first arrived here, his first birthday, I bought him this expensive Tonka truck because I knew that my parents couldn't afford it. And also when you migrate, you don't take everything with you because it's just so much stuff. And I wanted to be sure that he had one hell of a birthday, his first birthday here, and that he had just something that was a bit special. I wore reasonably short skirts, but when I got to Australia, they had skirts that I thought, you've got to be joking. And I remember friends sort of saying, friends that I made that sort of said, you've got to take a couple of inches off your skirt. And I said, no way, I can't move in that. Oh no, we don't wear them that long. And eventually my skirts had to come up just ever so slightly because there was no way in the world I was going to wear them that short. Unfortunately, I'd have to say there's still discrimination. And it's really funny, in the 50s, there was a lot of discrimination against certain parts of the community because they possibly look slightly different. Have a bit of patience with the language and look at what everybody's bringing to this country. They're bringing different foods, different cultures, different music. Gee, we could learn so much from each other.